Hi, in today's episode, we have Medha Dikshit. Medha is a Bharatanatyam dancer and a rebel with a cause. She's beautiful, and Medha began learning Bharatanatyam at the age of 5, Ranga Pravesha in 2002, and she did her PGD in choreography and masters in Bharatanatyam from Shastra University. Medha has traveled across country and she's gone abroad for shows and workshops. The best part about beautiful Medha is the differentiating factor is that she believes in inclusive art forms. So for a Bharatanatyam dancer to be with this thought process is really different. So Medha, tell me about your journey and how did you get into this whole space where you felt that inclusivity, which I think is a very, very important factor. And there should not be any division of anyone wanting to learn an art form. You tell me your work in this field.
Hi, Mawa. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Yes, so I was 5, like you said, when I started learning Bharatanatyam. And like any other child, I used to go to my classes, and that was just a very small part of my growing up years. But as I started understanding dance at a deeper level and started meeting people, especially with my travel experiences, my thought towards dance per se changed a lot. What I noticed was dance was more for people who could afford, who had family support, and all kinds of privilege. But I believe art is not something that can be restricted to just these things. And that's when I started thinking about uh, anybody should be able, who wants to dance should be able to
Whoever
dance.
wishes to express themselves should have that platform. I so
Absolutely.
agree with you. Yes. Mm.
Yes. Um, but when I thought about this, I honestly didn't know where I should start or how I could uh, do this or bring a change in what I'm pursuing at the moment. But what started was initially with a transgender community. Um, I started working with them. In fact, that was a very big struggle. I had to even talk to them, meet them, and it was not very easy. I had
Why
to
wasn't it easy?
because they are also scared of people. They don't
Yes.
know how genuine you are with your thoughts
With your intentions,
because
yeah.
yeah, because mostly people want to extract things from them or for their own benefit. It was very very difficult and it's not easy. If, at that this was about 12, 13 years back when I was quite young. I had no support about there was no support system who could guide me through these things, so I literally went behind them on the street and I went to their places. I spoke to them. Then I got a bunch of people who I started teaching.
But what prompted you to do this? What was that one little incident that made you do this? Because I have also worked, we have a common friend, Anand, and I began my first film for Durga Puja with a film when I had worked with the trans women in Bangalore. But to me, how I came about it was this that I saw them very hesitant to enter the puja pandal, which I, as a Bengali, used to believe that this is a very, very, it's a community puja and everybody and anybody is allowed in. But I saw the security guards not letting them come in, and that's when I did my Durga Puja, small film. It was really badly made. I mean, from my side, Anand did a great job, but I spoke so fast because I was so nervous. But yes, to me, when I saw that the pair of eyes, because eyes have no gender, emotions have no gender, and they were not allowed in. And so for me, that was the
And
experience.
that's for no fault of theirs.
No fault at all. No fault at all. And I'm really hoping things are changing. Of course, now
Right.
it's getting better.
Right.
I think the pandemic has done good things to people also. There's been an awakening that
Right.
we are so transient. Everything is, we are not invincible.
Right.
And, you might just, because I've lost a few friends also during this pandemic. And I just feel that, how much ever love we have to give within us, and I think also as a creative person, the more love and emotion we have and we can spread that out, our art gets better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Medha, tell me that incident that had happened for you. What was that turning point for you to think about trans women to be? Because, when you learn Bharatanatyam, you're such a Puritan, and you're only going to stick to the age-old traditional way of doing dance. So, how and what was that trigger?
I do have a few seniors who have worked with visually challenged, physically challenged, or specially abled children and adults. So when I was thinking about it, I thought, yes, there are NGOs, there are people who support these groups. But what about these women? The trans women who we see on street. Like I mentioned earlier, I find them uh, very interesting, because particularly from dance per se, because see, dance is a beautiful amalgamation of Shiva and Shakti,
Yes.
and there can't be a better person to dance than them, is something I felt.
Yeah, so we need to explain actually to our listeners, because we have so many people who are also not from India. What is it that's the Shiva and the Shakti? Shiva is the masculine form, and
Yes, and
Shakti
Shakti
is
is
the
the
feminine
feminine
form.
form.
And the two mixing together, which is so beautiful. It's a
Yes,
union.
and the concept of Ardhanarishwara
Yes.
it's a very popular concept we have in
Yeah,
India. So this is actually not something alien to us.
absolutely not.
When we
No, it is
talk
not.
about the age old practice, they have always been respected, and these concepts have always been spoken about. Even in dance, we do a lot of compositions on Ardhanarishwara. And that's when this thought came to me, why is that they are always pushed away? And I see them, in fact, what triggered me was also when I was in one of the signals, I saw them dancing. Then that's when I
This is a
thought,
very colonial thing, by the way.
this very, yes,
It's a
yes.
very colonial thing. It is not at all an Indian system of not having trans people very much a part and parcel of our lives. This was something that was completely, thought over, and they were really cast aside. And they, from there on, I mean, there was no looking back, because all of us, I think, at a certain point in our lives, we did emulate what the colonial people had left for us.
Yes, I think that's when even this whole thing about privileged society getting into dance came in, which was not very prevalent before that. So we were always a very inclusive society. That's how I got in touch with them and I started working with them.
Okay.
And when I was doing my master's, my dissertation work was also about Aravanis and their art forms and dance in Aravani community.
Aravani community.
Yes. So even in the trans women, there are a lot of umbrella terms. Even I'm not very sure about those.
Yeah.
Like there are Jogatis and there are Aravanis, and so there are many of them. Um, so I got to work with few of them, but this didn't happen for a very long time. I had to stop it due to my own reasons. But after 10 years now, again, I'm trying to get in touch with them for the same reason. But like you mentioned, I think things are changing today. So this is just one part of it when I say inclusivity. So there are so many other things about dance, like even men dancing, boys dancing, which uh, just the fact that when somebody says their son is learning dance, uh, they would probably pass a very fleetingly pass a comment, are you trying to be a girl by dancing? Why do you want to learn dance?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You can say that
And they
again.
want to give them names like, you're not going to grow up to be a normal boy. So these kind of terms, I think, are very disrespectful.
It is.
uh, so inclusivity is about caste, class, gender, all of these. It's beyond, I would say, it's beyond the societal boundaries that we have. It's beyond the physical body that we have.
And how many students do you have who are boys in your class?
Not even one.
Oh dear, really?
Not even one. I have about 75 students.
And they're all girls.
All of them are girls. In fact, I push them, like I push parents to send their sons, There are siblings, the girls usually come to class. I push them. There are kids who are interested. I've seen, because when the sister is dancing, I see the little ones or their older brother dancing. And especially now with pandemic, everything going online, I keep seeing them dancing in the
At the
hall,
back.
at the back. And I talk to I talk to their parents. I tell them, why don't you send? and then they're like, they just laugh it off, even though the
That's so
child is
sad.
interested. Sometimes, the daughter might not be interested at all. But yes, it's a very cliche that the girls have to learn dance and boys have to do something very masculine. And
So tell me, when you say that, you know what, you need to have monetary and you need to be monetarily stable to be able to take on dance form as a full-time profession. Why do you say that, and from where does that statement come? Because I agree with you. And I have been struggling for so many years to even find that sense of validity for my work. Because I think everybody equates work based on money and how successful you are monetarily. And for artists, of course, the first thing we're made to we're told that, oh, you've been given a stage and that's more than enough, and people have come to watch you, and money is not even something that's discussed. And tell me a little bit about this part. I'm sure you'd have gone through some experiences that were heartbreaking, harrowing. I can imagine, because I mean, to learn how to dance, you're going against your physical, you're going against your physical body, and you're even if you're tired, you have to go through the whole physical part of dancing just to justify that is so painful to me. So tell me, how did you kind of overcome all these challenges, Medha?
I don't think I've overcome, but I have found my ways, definitely. See, it starts right from learning an art form. It doesn't come free. You have to pay the guru dakshina. It starts from there. And I won't say it's wrong, because as a guru, as a teacher, that's their living. But once you take this as a profession, you have to make your earning through this. You have your rents to pay, you have your bills to pay. Now, how do you earn this? Ev- like you rightly mentioned, everybody wants you to perform, and they very casually say, or make you feel nice, saying, yes, you've got the big platform that you wanted. Now this is going to give you name, right? But what will it give me other than name? My name is not going to feed me. So people who have a strong economic background definitely can survive. I
So are you
mean,
telling me that people who actually do not have they're not probably accountable to pay up at home, they are the ones who are pursuing art forms and dance,
not
no?
really. See, there are a lot of dancers, in spite of all these struggles, they still pursue. I think it's only because of the passion that they have. They find their ways to earn. Teaching is probably one of the popular ways, especially in classical dance form, that you earn. But anything else is like a charity. But my question is, why? If somebody is organizing a performance, uh, yeah, I mean, see, once a while I understand, but every time it's not.
No, even when you say once a while, but I have a question. I mean, do you go to a doctor and say, just once in a while, treat me free? Do you even go to a chartered accountant and say, just do my accounts, and, for the next
Exactly.
account, I will pay you? You don't. I don't
Yeah.
know why is it this
I
that
think
they do
some.
that with us. I was a writer, face this like tremendously. They will tell me
I
that,
remember one of your posts about this.
oh my, I was so angry about it.
Yes, yes.
That if you're it's like when you go into a restaurant, you're asking for, there are different prices to it. So why won't you allow me to tell you, okay, you know what, a 10,000 word article is going to cost you this much, and that one will cost you that much? No, they don't get that. They
Yeah.
just feel that they're giving me like a huge opportunity, and I don't want your opportunity, because I think I know how to write. If I'm saying yes to you for your brand, I will know what to do with it.
Right.
So it's very difficult, and I mean, hats off. I know one can't overcome that unless you become such a big artist, or there's a
Right.
corporate house that promotes
And
you.
to grow there, the route you have to take is not easy at
Oh, it's
all.
daunting, Medha. You're walking on a path of thorns.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that is where, um, of course, there's a lot of discrimination, even in with regard to caste, class. There's a lot of.
What do you mean by caste and class. I mean, class, I
There is
understood.
there is a lot of discrimination
Hmm.
in terms of preference given to
A
people
Brahmin?
coming from higher castes
Okay.
and with certain looks, uh, the way they are treated. There's a lot of politics involved. But what we see today, why we still have so many dancers, is because I think it's the passion that they have.
Yeah,
That
you don't know how to do anything else.
yeah,
Like I don't know what to do without writing it, without doing podcasting or
yes,
giving a voice. I don't know what else to do
yes.
any longer.
Right. And now there are few dancers from hereditary community who are speaking out and talking about it, which I think we were not even aware. So
What do you
in
mean by that?
so there's a lot of the political scenario that I told is not even something which was discussed earlier. But today, yes, like I said, there are voices who
They are
are,
opening up and
yes,
talking.
they're opening up and talking about it, which was also an eye opener for me. Otherwise, for us, everything looks rosy and nice from the outside world, but every dancer have their own struggle. See, I mean, I'm a dancer and I'll talk about dance as such because dance is not something where you just go perform. As a dancer, you need to know music, you need to know lighting, you need to know marketing, you need to know so you need to learn literature, and all these won't come easy. You have to spend hours on these. And you have to spend on your costume, you have to spend, so when you're performing, it's not just you. Like I said, you need to have good quality of music or have live musicians come and sing for you and accompany you. So there is so much more to a dancer than just performance.
That is really tough, Medha.
It is. So this is where the challenges come for uh, somebody who is trying to make a name in the dance field. Yes, today we have social media. The positive side of it is people who are really working hard are getting a platform.
Oh, for sure. I think it is radical.
Yes,
Medha, it is radical according to me. I know a lot of people might really say, oh, you know what, you need a digital detox. Surely we do. And we shouldn't be stuck to our phones all the time. And, because that has all the social media platforms. But, the number of photographers, dancers, artists, singers, they're all getting, you don't have to pay to be inside a hall. You don't need to get a,
correct,
a
correct.
exhibition hall where you need to pay. Because so
Yes,
many people can't. And
yes. In
you,
fact, I honestly, Mahua, it's been few years now that I have been very strict about it and upright about if they don't pay me, I'm not going to perform, and they have to cover my
I just
at
began.
least my expenses of that performance. No, if because every performance I can't end up shelling out from my pocket. I don't have anything in my pocket to shell out, and how do I perform? Unless I perform, I don't get a name. But now I think I have moved on from there. I don't. Uh, and my idea of dancing has gone beyond performance. So I
What do
am
you mean by
working.
that?
Yes, so I call it beyond the proscenium, which is something I have been working on for some time. Like I said, one is about inclusivity. So I do work with special children, um, and
And how is that experience, Medha?
it's beautiful. It's 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 so pure because there is no expectation of what is going to come out from that class. It's that moment that they rejoice, and it's that moment I enjoy. Unlike so many other classes where this happens and this has to end up with a performance, end up with a competition, end with an exam, none of these are attached. No strings attached to this. So recently, I also started teaching a bunch of women who are over 50
Wow.
and they have never danced in their life. And it's only because they just wanted to try. In fact, we had an online performance and they were so thrilled. I could see the child in them,
Yeah,
that,
oh my
that
God, you just say that
innocence.
again and again, that child in us.
Yeah, the oldest I have right now is a 60-year-old who's coming.
Wow.
And I think I'm really enjoying being with these offbeat circle of people because, like I said, there are no strings attached to this. It's that moment of joy. And after every class, when they reach out to you and say, this was so nice, and this is what I want to learn next. Can you teach me something like this? And for them, it's pure joy and pure happiness, nothing beyond that.
And that, I think, to you is such a fulfilling moment. Am I right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that is where I see dance going beyond stage or beyond performance. So the other work I have also been doing is with education. I have worked with a few alternate schools, not the mainstream schools, where I have tried to create certain syllabus and work in sync with what they teach in school. So these are things that I absolutely love doing. It's not just performance alone. Performance, to me at the moment, is just one very small part of it.
Okay. This now you've spread yourself in so many other areas where you are actually also experiencing yourself, as I can see it in your eyes.
Yes, and I learn. In fact, I think that's a greater joy. There's so much that I get to learn when I'm involved in an environment that I'm not used to.
Oh, yes, you're challenging your own self when you're
Right.
in an environment like that. So, Medha, just tell me a little bit about the fact that, I mean, dance to me is all about fitness and about a body that has to be completely like agile, and you need to have really high energy levels. Uh, Being a mother, how difficult was that for you? I mean, you did go through 9 months of not being able to dance, I'm sure. Yeah. And then also our bodies just change after you've given birth. And, you as a woman, so many times, I know people are really now talking about the fact that I love my stretch marks because, it shows that
Correct.
I've been a mother. But I don't think I could say that when I had my stretch marks on my stomach, because to me, I just didn't recognize my body,
Hmm.
after I had delivered. And that itself was such a shocker because I don't think we were even educated enough to
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
that all these
And
things are
body
going to
shaming was
happen.
very common then.
Oh, extremely common. It was extremely common that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so how did you kind of those 9 months that you did not do any form of dance, I'm sure, how did you cope up with the entire changing? I mean, motherhood itself is such a it's such an awakening. I think, when you become a mother, you suddenly start realizing that you love somebody much more than yourself, which you've
Right,
never known ever before.
right.
And we've spoken about it in the past. And so how was that?
So my pregnancy was quite nice, I would say, because I kept teaching. I also did a couple of performance. In fact, I danced in my 8th month of pregnancy also.
Wow, really? And were you allowed to do that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I used to practice yoga along with dance, and it was quite comfortable. So when I say dance, it was not a very energetic one. It was a soft, subtle dance that I did, but I did. I was not away from dance at all. In fact, just till about 10 days before my delivery, I used to travel and take classes and come back. But what changed was post pregnancy, which I never expected. People had told me, but I think till you experience yourself, you don't know what is waiting for you. So,
So true.
post delivery, I did go through postpartum
I don't think
depression.
we even knew, that people do get depressed. I
Right,
didn't know.
right.
And I was depressed. And I think there was a mother a long time back. She had just delivered a child and she gave me a call and she said, I want to talk to you. And I said, hey, how are you doing? You just become a mother. She said, I remember when people were congratulating you, you didn't say thank you. So, I'm feeling completely lost. And I want to ask you, is it okay to feel like that? And by then I was already, like 4 years into my motherhood journey.
Oh.
And I said, oh, really? I didn't say thank you. She said, no, you were looking cross with everybody who was talking to you.
Yeah, I think
So,
accepting something post delivery, accepting your body, accepting the whole change that has happened, even, I mean, you become responsible
for
for
another being.
another human being there.
Yeah, yeah.
So anything goes wrong, it's because of you. I mean, people very conveniently point at you. So physically and mentally, it was extremely challenging because for someone like me who have always traveled, been very active, just to tie me down in in a room, and I was asked to look after the child. I mean, it was not even asked, I had to. I had no choice.
Yeah.
As much I loved being a mother, I loved being with my baby, it was very difficult. So what happened was, about 5 6 months post pregnancy, I got an opportunity to perform for National Doordarshan. Till then, I was not even aware that my grade, so A grade is for the National Doordarshan. I was a B grade artist, that is the state Doordarshan. But I had received a letter about few months back. I had not seen the letter, and they gave me a call asking if I could do a recording in next 20 days. And getting an opportunity to record for National Doordarshan, uh, it's not very often we get that. It's very, very rare. In fact, if I reject, I don't know when I'm going to get it next. And I said yes. Till then, I had not moved at all.
Your body, yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, because I didn't have a natural delivery, and in spite of being quite active, um, so I had to take time to heal. And then just in 20 days, I had to prepare myself for 1 hour of recording. And that had to be like a traditional, very energetic performance. So I did it, I recorded. After that, my health started deteriorating because I had not taken enough rest. I started having knee issues. So a lot of health issues started cropping up. And that's when I
I
started
had an
feeling this is
excruciating backache.
not me at all. This is
Yes.
just not me. Somebody who could jump from here to there. I'm not able to move now. So for somehow I pushed 2 years of post pregnancy, but after that I just couldn't do anything. I think that was the worst phase of my life. After 2 years, about another 2 3 years of my life was pretty bad because I really didn't know what happened. And doctors told me I have to undergo surgery. They said I may not be able to dance again at all. My depression just got more deeper and stronger. uh,
But you've obviously completely recovered. I can see that.
yeah, I think it was not something that happened overnight. It took me a long while to do that. I tried a lot of things. I did take help. I went to a healer. I spoke to therapists, and I started doing yoga, which changed a lot in me.
Mhm.
And I started slowly working on my fitness, my eating habits, my lifestyle. I had to change everything, but I think everything happened for good. So today, I might not be as fit as I was before, but definitely at a very happy space where I can perform, I can do what I want to do. Uh, so it I have taken my steps to be where I am, and I think we have only two choice. Either we stay there and struggle and keep cribbing about it, or work on it and get out of it.
Absolutely. I'm a complete believer of that because for me, I'm rebooting myself after so many years, I think about 10 to 12 years of no work whatsoever, and entering a space that is full of youngsters and somebody who's never even been on on any sort of
Media.
social media. And so, just navigating the whole thing itself is so daunting. But I'm so glad I decided to not just vegetate and say, okay,
Right.
yeah. But of course, it needed me to really, there have been tears that I've shed. There have been sleepless nights and which I've thought, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why am I like this? Why do I feel so
Yes.
much?
Yes.
And, but, today I'm also glad, like, if there are 7 days in a week, there are 4 days that I would feel, no, okay, not 4 days. There would be 2 days in a week where I feel that, oh God, why do I feel so much towards things? But the other days, I'm so glad that I can feel because out of that comes the art. The
Right.
ability to understand, to give the best to your work. So yeah. So coming back to Medha, tell me a little about, I remember we were talking last time, and there are some parts of literature that have like really played a huge impact on you, and those you have imbibed in your dance form. So it'd be lovely for our listeners to know about, some of the parts of literature that has shaped up some of your dance performances.
One literature I absolutely love is Sri Jayadeva's Ashtapadi. Uh, that has been my all-time favorite, and I have worked on a few of them. The
It's
kind
called
of
Sri Jayadeva's Ashtapadi.
Ashtapadi.
Okay, and what is it all about?
So this is about Krishna and Radha's
Oh,
love,
beautiful.
and I mean, I have tried reading it many times. Every time I see something new in that, and anybody speaking about it, I love listening to it. Um, the kind of romance that is described, I don't think I have watched it or heard it in any movie or any novel, at least in the ones that I have come
Which part
across.
touched you the most?
The last part of the Ashtapadi, where so the whole Ashtapadi is about Radha waiting. I mean, in a very simpler form, and Krishna has told he's going to meet her at some point of time in during that night, and she keeps waiting, and he doesn't turn up, and she gets to know that he's with another group of women, and she gets so angry, she gets frustrated, she cries. I mean, she there's so many variations of emotions that we see that she goes through, like shades of emotions. And then when he comes, they have a whole conversation, they fight, they laugh, so many things happen. And towards the end of it, she's so angry, she doesn't want to forgive him for all that he has done. And he's Krishna, and he still takes her feet and puts it on his head, and he says, "Can you please forgive me?" And she just melts there. That's, I think that's like the ultimate
Yeah, I get the
romance.
goosebumps.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
I so this whole thing is very, very beautiful. So I just love this.
Look at your eyes getting glassy, so is mine.
Yeah, yeah. So apart from this one, more than literature, I would say a lot of poetry. And I love exploring poetry from different languages.
Okay.
Like I have worked on a Bengali song. I have worked on a Odia song. I have worked on Marathi songs. Brij Bhasha. Brij Bhasha, of course, has been popular in
Hmm.
poetry. Even from Karnataka, I have tried working on different accents. So, we have different
Yes,
flavors
absolutely.
of Kannada here.
Yeah.
So, I love working on poetry from different languages.
Okay.
Um, as diverse as they are, we can see a lot of common interests, or especially when we go back in history. mm, Bhakti movement is one thing that I have worked on. And when I was working on this particular topic, I started picking poetry from various parts of India. And what was common, there was no social media, there was no network, there was no human connection. Was only, I mean, it people could not connect from one state to another as easily as we can
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
But the content of the poetry are so similar, in the way I mean, when I say language, not the language, but the kind of vocabulary that is used and the intent of the poetry, they're so similar. And these are some things that catch my interest, and I love to work on these kind of projects.
Oh, how wonderful is that? How wonderful is that? Ved? So tell me now, Medha, that where do you see yourself taking this now with the pandemic? I'm sure a lot of you've been doing online, and online is definitely not like the way it is to do. Because I've seen you perform in Kavan Park with, with all the children, in the open air, and that one-on-one interaction is obviously lesser.
Correct.
So how does that affect your art form? We've gotten
um,
used to it, all of us, I know, but that initial stage, how
Yeah,
is
so
it?
initially I refused to take class. For 3 months, we just stopped everything because I was very positive that it's going to
Yeah, we
uh,
all were.
go away and we'll all be back to class. Yeah, but I
I think we're
think
very negative now because we really do. Everybody's talking about the third wave.
correct. So yeah. But after 3 months, then I had no choice but to start back classes online. That way, I think I have to be so grateful to technology, because of which we were able to continue
The
our
classes.
classes. And initially, it was really difficult. I would struggle because I'm not somebody who is used to sitting in front of a laptop, and I never imagined myself being there at any point of time in my life. Like, I mean, I might use a device for certain activities, but not for class, definitely not for my work, at least. So it was very difficult. Eventually, I mean, I would say we, because it was only because of my students. I was also able to come up with various ways of communicating, teaching, and various methods so that we don't miss out too much on what we used to do in class.
Okay.
So now it's been a year, and I would say now I think we are at that phase where we are definitely comfortable with the setting we have. Of course, it's not the best, as good as a physical meet, but I mean, I would say when something closes, there's something that opens up, and
Absolutely.
we only have to wait for it. We don't know when that's going to happen. But I see what I thought a year ago was everything is shut, and I don't know. This is just a temporary setting that I have, and there are a few students who quit because parents felt this is not the way they want their kids to learn, and I mean, it's understandable that that's how they want their kids to learn. But today I see there are other things that have opened up now because of the online structure that we have. Anybody from any corner of the world can learn,
Yeah, which is so amazing.
which is so
And have you had
amazing.
students from out of India?
Yes.
Wow,
So,
that's nice.
in fact, a lot of my old students, I
Okay.
started teaching in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
about 16 years back. Um, so they all went abroad to study. They got married. Some of them got married, and they so wanted to continue. And when I just reached out to them, said, "What do you think if I want to take a class, just online class?" They were so happy. They said, this is something we always wanted, but we didn't know how to continue. And some of them are working full time now. What A lot of them attend from their own office, so they have the freedom to attend class from wherever they are,
Yes.
which is a very very big plus
It's
point.
a huge plus point. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, uh, and also the way we interact with others, it's so easy to connect with another artist. So, this is the positive side of online or the virtual sessions that we are having. No doubt, like I said, physical class or having, especially with kids, having kids around you is the best part of my class. I always, and because those cuddles, those hugs, when they just come and jump on you, and it's so amazing. Those are the things I terribly miss.
And is your son also going to learn dance?
I don't know. If he wants to, I'll be more than happy.
Okay. That's wonderful. That's
Yeah, but it's
wonderful.
it's at home. He keeps watching. So I hope that he's going to take it up sometime. But yeah, totally up to him.
Before I end the episode, I would like to remind you of a line that you'd said to me and that stayed back with me, saying that your best friend is your dance. Like my best friend is my pen.
Correct, correct,
It
correct.
just goes with me. I know that come what may, the people may leave me and people may go, and I may be heartbroken and dejected, but my pen will never ever let me down. And in the same way, your feet will never let you down.
Oh, so true, so true. Because, um, the reason I feel that is wherever I go, I'm recognized as a dancer. And without that, I don't know if I have any identity. And I feel so proud of who I am, and who I am because of dance. So I'm so grateful for this best friend that I have with me.
Yes, me too. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So wherever I go, wherever I am, whatever mood I am in, dance is with me.
How are you
So
so beautiful, Midha? What is it that you do? Your skin care tips in
people
your.
like you have always complimented, and I think that
I'm
smile just
sure
brings
everybody would be saying that to you with those beautiful dancer eyes that are expressive. It's full of expression, and you are gorgeous, Medha. Thank you so much for being in this episode today. And if people were to look out for your classes, where can they find you? If you can just share with us your phone number, your
Yeah.
Instagram handle, your social media account, how?
Yeah. So before I give out that, I just want to say something, Mahua. I have been in a couple of interviews on social media, but honestly, not something. I mean, we generally discuss about my journey as a dancer, where I have performed, and things like that. But this is something I will cherish because you've probably brought out so many things I have never spoken about. So thank you so much for doing this recording
Thank you
with me.
so much, Medha. That
It
has
was
touched my heart. I'm trying to stop a tear from falling on the side of my eye, but thank you so very much. Thank you.
yeah, I think the way you take the interview or the way you speak, it's so beautiful. I just you just make me speak. It's as simple as that. I don't have to think too much.
Like I always say that vulnerability is strength. And I think in the pandemic, I think more and more people should recognize that, because the more you are vulnerable with each other, you will make better friends. People will connect with you, because I don't think anybody is there who's perfect. Each of us are flawed.
Right.
Each of us
I
have
don't
got
think there's any
challenges.
concept as perfect at all.
Yeah, yeah. But then we try to always, project that there is perfection in our lives. Perfect marriage, perfect husband, perfect children, perfect career, perfect everything.
Right.
And which is not actually the reality.
Right.
So thanks once again, Medha, and share with us.
So my you can reach out to me on my WhatsApp number, that is 98459 29598. And my Insta handle is Medha_Dakini, MEDHA_DAKINI. That is my Insta handle. You can also mail me at swasti.art@gmail.com. That
How
is
do
my
you spell
foundation.
Swasti?
Yeah, SVASTIART, swasti.art@gmail.com. So that is my Swasti Art Foundation is my dance school. So yes, I can be reached on any of these.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mahua. Thank you so much.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course, all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are Moody Mo Awaaz Podcast, where Hatke is hot.